Trust Fund. Dr. Gloria, it's a pleasure to have you join us in the hall. Let us put our hands together for her. Also, for recognition, Dr. A.A. Usman, who is the founder and president of Geospatial Intelligence Foundation of Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you join us as well. Let us put our hands together for him. These are individuals that have committed private funds and time into enterprise development in Nigeria. Now, moving quickly back to our program, or our schedule of program today, we will be having another very important presentation. This presentation will be done by somebody, personally as one in the media space I have had the cause to cross paths with about 15 years ago. I was mentioning to him earlier, when he made a presentation around the Ministry of Defense, around technologies that could aid the fight against insecurity in Nigeria. One of my colleagues in the media space once wrote an article and described him as the genius behind Made in Nigeria armored cars in Nigeria. I told him earlier on that he has refused to grow old. He's remained the same way I've known him for the last 15 years. He's managed to put a stop on age. Maybe that is another technology, DG, that he will be sharing with us when he gets on the rostrum. He's a man of many parts. And one of the ways I would describe him is that every time you show up around very important government institutions and you have to, walk past those armored personnel vehicles that the police guys use, if you don't remember his name, remember this face. That's the face behind that technology. Every time you've had cause to walk past policemen who are vested in those protective gears, if you don't remember anything, remember this name that I'm going to call. For more than 15 years, Adetokunbo Ogundeyin has silently pioneered Nigeria's armored vehicle industry. He's been using his company, to manufacture high-tech armored vehicles and body armor to help combat insecurity in the country. Today, he's showcasing another realm of technology, one that could not have come at a better time, considering what we are going through in Nigeria at the moment. And so I have the honor and privilege to welcome to the rostrum for the second time Engineer Ade Ogundeyin, who is the GMD of Proforce Galaxies Limited, who will be speaking to us on the topic commercializing space technology for national and continental security challenges and opportunity. A round of applause for this gentleman. If you know that the technologies that would save you going forward depends on this man, you will clap better than you had done when I introduced them the first time. Thank you very much for what you do for God and country.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I believe the introduction, I don't deserve it. But when you don't chase money, then you're at peace with yourself, and then you won't grow old. People who chase money are people who grow old. So I think that explains why for 15 years I've remained the way I am. But yes, the topic today is a very interesting topic. Commercialization or commercializing space technology for national and continental security, challenges and opportunities. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's an honor to stand before you today to discuss a topic that could redefine Africa's future: commercialization of the space technology for national and continental security. Let us take three scenarios: a satellite orbiting high above the continent and detects a private vessel approaching the Gulf of Guinea in real time, enabling swift naval intervention. That's scenario one. Number two, imagine a constellation of African-built satellites alerting communities to an impending flood, thus saving lives and livelihood. And then scenario three, imagine a real-time digital twin of every country in Africa available to the defense, security, and law enforcement agencies of each state or each country to enable accurate reconnaissance, tactical and/or combat operations. It is not mere science fiction. It is a future within our grasp, powered by space technology. Space is no longer mere science fiction. It's a future within our grasp, powered by space technology. Space is no longer just the frontier of exploration. It's a vital tool for security. Satellites can, among others, monitor borders, track illegal trafficking, manage disasters, connect remote regions of high speed, low latency internet connection. For a continent as vast and vibrant as Africa, these capabilities are not just useful, they are very essential. Yet, unlocking this potential through commercialization brings private enterprise into the fold, presenting both undaunting challenges and extraordinary opportunities. Today, under the theme, Space Economy and Emerging Markets in Africa, I'll take you on a journey of exploring how commercializing space technology can secure our nation, our continent, while positioning it as leaders in global space economy. The African Space Odyssey is already underway. Since Nigeria launched its first satellite in 2003, the continent has made remarkable strides. As of 2020, 11 African nations have sent over 40 satellites into orbit, from South Africa's pioneering programs to Kenya's innovative CubeSats. The African Union has further elevated our ambitions with the establishment of Africa's Space Agency, tasked with the coordinating continental efforts. But there is the reality where governments have driven this progress. Our commercial space sector is still in its infancy. Companies like South African SCS Aerospace Group provide satellite solutions, and Nigeria's Nicomsat delivers communication services, yet private sector involvement remains limited. Prophos Galaxies has started building the first indigenous end-to-end space and satellite manufacturing plant in Nigeria, with the capacity to carry out assembly, integration, and testing of synthetic aperture radar satellites, very high-resolution optical satellites, CubeSats, ground station equipment manufacturing and installation, as well as provision of satellite data solutions to end users. Globally, the space economy was valued at $383.5 billion in 2017, with projections reaching up to $2.7 trillion in 2050. Africa, with its youthful population, strategic geography, untapped potential, stands poised to claim a share in this cosmic market. The big question is, how do we harness commercialization to secure our future? Challenges in commercializing space technology for security. You know, I'll say something. I've been in China for the past 2 weeks, all over China, visiting majority of the companies that produce satellites and render satellite services. And I was amazed to how far China has gone. Very, very amazed. In November, I was in the US and of course in Europe last year, visiting a lot of satellite manufacturers, aerospace companies, and I was amazed about how far the world has gone. I realized that Africa, we are at the cutting edge of developing space technology. And the reason why is because, you see, in Africa, let me talk about the indigenous investor. Sometimes it is very difficult when you are talking about something that is a mirage, as of something that you can see, something that you can feel. It makes a lot of difference. Sometimes we have a lot of constraints financially, and I'll tell you why. A typical indigenous bank in Nigeria would not want to take a risk of giving you a facility because you want to set up an aerospace company or you want to start building satellites. The first question they will ask you is that, how many people are going to buy the satellites? Who will buy satellites? The other question they will ask you is that, why satellite? Why don't you think about things that are on land? Things that are on land that we can see. Then the next thing that will happen, they'll ask for all sorts of collaterals. In fact, they'll almost ask for your family, that you should put down your family as collateral, your whole family, that you should mortgage your family. You see, those are the problems indigenous companies will have in Nigeria. But you see, there's always a way out. You may ask me, why is it that we're into space technology? The reason why Proforce is into space technology is because we can see the future. The future is in aerospace. Not everybody can see. It's not everybody that has eyes that can see. And it's not everybody that can see that has the guts to take the risk. Everybody is interested in associating with success. Nobody wants to associate with failure. A typical example, you launch a satellite and it fails. What happens? People have forgotten that you can take insurance. There are some things that are very necessary. Insurance for travel of the space, insurance for launching. There are different types of insurance you can take. So you can mitigate against all those failures. But people are not seeing that. A bank will never see that. A bank will just tell you that who has done it before. Which company in Nigeria has done it? Why do you want to go there? I'll give you a typical example, very interesting example. I can remember 2007 when, as a company, we started a unique business in Nigeria, very unique business. And we went to meet the bank. I'll tell you the type of business, very strange business. We went to meet the bank 2007, forgetting the fact that I had been using the bank since 1986 when I started business. We went to meet the bank in 2007 that, look, we want to go into this business. We've got the land, we've got everything, we want you to help us. They said, no way, it can never happen. Oh, not in Nigeria. And you know the type of business? It was a cemetery business, burying dead bodies. And the banks were like, you want to bury a dead body? At how much? 250,000 naira? They said it's not possible. Nobody will pay. Because at that time, people were burying dead bodies. The name of the company is called Vaults and Gardens. People were burying dead bodies for 20,000, 10,000 naira. And you are saying you want to bury a dead body for 250,000 naira. The rest is history. Because today, we bury those same dead bodies for 100 million naira per vault. The same banks that ran away from us are the same banks that are running towards us. By the time we started, and after about 10 years, And we were netting a turnover of close to about 5 billion, 10 billion. These same banks were coming and saying, how did you do it? That is the same thing about aerospace. Banks will never see what others cannot see. They will never see this type of thing because nobody has gone into aerospace in Nigeria. They will tell you that aerospace, why do you want to launch a satellite? Who has launched a satellite before from Nigeria? Don't you know the risk in launching satellite? Do you know that if one of your satellite gets missing, do you know how much it costs? And that is the problem. But there is always a way out. Number one, financial constraints. Space technology is very capital intensive. And that is why there are collaborations with foreign investors. There are a lot of foreign investors who are interested in the space industry in Nigeria. Launching a satellite can cost millions of dollars, and many African nations face tight budgets. Nigeria's space program, for instance, sets goals in 2005 to manufacture satellites, develop launch vehicles. Funding shortages have forced a lot of reliance on foreign partners, thereby slowing progress. Commercialization could attract foreign investment, but the initial capital barrier remains very steep. Capacity and transfer, technology transfer. Building indigenous expertise is another challenge. For example, look at Proforce Galaxies today. We have quite a number of partners from all over the world. We have from the Far East, and we have from the Western world. Partnership with space powers like China, US, Europe, they bring the technology and the know-how. And every single one of them, we keep on telling them, I'm not ready just for you to produce a satellite for me or launch. We have to produce the satellite in Nigeria. And with time, we launch in Nigeria. It has to be done indigenously. And that is why the satellites we are going to produce now, one of them will be done in Nigeria. So that the technology transfer, the technical know-how, Nigerians will gain from that. And right from this year, there's going to be a tangential increase in Nigeria in space, Nigeria private investors in space. I'm glad that our own NASDA is taking giant steps in capacity development. And I should thank the DG of NASDA. They've done very, very well in that area. They've encouraged private investors. Every day I hear them talking to private investors. Yes, it's a high-risk business. And not everybody can just put their head in it. A typical example is setting up a refinery in Nigeria. Even the richest man in Africa had to borrow close to $12 billion. I'm sure I can imagine what he had mortgaged to get $12 billion. So it is a matter of life and death. It's either you succeed or you commit suicide. That is it. And not everybody is prepared to. Most people are prepared to just make their money and drive G-Wagon, drive a Mercedes, drive a Range Rover, and enjoy themselves living in Maitama. They don't want to take that risk at all. But we are going to take the risk. Now is the time. Under the DG of NASDA, we will all take that risk by the special grace of God. We will take the risk, and it's going to be a matter of life and death. We have to succeed. There is no failure. Nothing like failure at all. We will succeed. Imagine business pressures, the rise of mega constellations. Think SpaceX Starlink, which has more than 7,000 satellites in the low Earth orbit. While they promise connectivity, they also crowd orbital paths with challenge Africa's ability to manage space traffic, potentially impacting our own satellites. Coincidentally, I know that the MD of SpaceX will be in Nigeria on Monday. The MD of SpaceX Africa. The challenges are real, but not insurmountable. Now let's turn to the opportunities that make this journey worthwhile. Opportunities in commercializing space technology for security application, innovation, and efficiency. Private companies thrive on competition and creativity. Across Africa, startups are already designing small satellites and CubeSats, which are affordable, agile alternatives to traditional models. By commercializing space tech, we can accelerate these innovations, tailoring our solutions to our unique security needs. Economic growth, a vibrant commercial space sector, could be an economic game changer. From satellite manufacturing to data analytics, it promises jobs for our youths and new revenue streams to our economy. Imagine African firms not just serving local needs, but exporting space services globally and emerging markets with continental routes. DG, sir, I will tell you something. You see, Provost is known to delve into the deep, unknown territories. We went into defense, started building armored vehicles. That is when the whole of Nigeria woke up and said, they too can build armored vehicles. Now we build armored vehicles all over the world. We export to Chad, Niger, Rwanda, all over the world. Now that we've delved into space, be ready. You will see so many Nigerians going. Because once we succeed, you will see Nigerians following suit. One thing you should know about Nigerian investors, most people, is that they want to see where their money is. Once a Nigerian is there and has succeeded, they will follow. But if that Nigerian fails, they will not go. They will just keep quiet. But I can assure you, success, failure has never been in our dictionary, and it will never be in our dictionary by the special grace of God. Strategic partnerships. International collaboration can turbocharge our efforts. China's Belt and Road Initiative has funded satellite projects in Africa, while US and Europe offer technical expertise. Structural rights. These partnerships can bring investment and knowledge without sacrificing sovereignty. Leapfrogging development. Africa has a history of leapfrogging. Think mobile phones, bypassing landmines. Space technology could do the same. Space technology is another industry like the mobile phone industry. I can assure you of that. That will happen. Space tech could do the same for security and development, delivering advanced capabilities without decades of groundwork. This is our chance to lead and not follow. So how do we turn challenges into opportunities? Here's the roadmap. Number one, foster public-private partnerships. Government should contract private firms for security services like satellite monitoring of flashpoints. A typical example is some of the things we are doing with our drones. We started manufacturing all sorts of drones, and that's exactly what we are doing. Invest in capacity, fund STEM education, space training programs to build a skilled African workforce. Strengthen regulations, develop clear continent-wide policies throughout govern commercial space activities. Coordinate continentally. Use the African Space Agency to pool resources and share technology, ensuring no nation is left behind. Balance international ties. Partner with global players for expertise, but prioritize technology transfer to maintain independence. Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and my sisters, commercializing space technology for security is not just an option. It is a necessity for Africa's future. It's about more than satellites. It's about sovereignty, prosperity, and safety. Yes, the aforementioned challenges are steep. Funding, capacity governance, but the rewards are boundless. Innovation, growth, and a continent that stands tall in global space economy. As we gather under these themes, space economy and emerging markets in Africa, let us commit to action. Let us build a future where Africa doesn't just look at the stars, but we own a piece of the stars. Where our space capabilities secure our nations and propel us into a new era of leadership. The time to act is now. Together, let's launch Africa into the galaxies, not as spectators, but as pioneers. Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Please, the MD Galaxy, please, the MD Proforce Galaxy Limited, please, kindly return. Let's have this very special presentation that will be made by one of the chairmen of the local organizing committees. The OC Imomo will be making this presentation to the managing director of Proforce Galaxy Limited. Please, do we have a cordless mic, please? Let's have one of the cordless mics for the chairman to make a very few remarks before making the presentation. Thank you. IT, please, can we have one of the cordless mics? So while that is going on,
thank you very much, Engineer Gunde. He has been a partner for the past two events. I want to call him a collaborator. We're so pleased and we're grateful. In fact, he has promised this committee bigger things for the next edition. And we appreciate it so much. And I want to give this gift as a token.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The chairman, OC Imomo, and of course the co-chairman, Engineer Dr. Haruna Mohammed, for that very wonderful presentation. Please, let's put our hands together once again for the managing director, Proforce Galaxies Limited, for that very awesome presentation. So let me call that lady first. Is she here? No, she's presented. I'll come and get it. Yeah. Yes. Of course. All right, thank you very much. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Just before we take the panel discussion, with the kind permission of the leadership of this conference, let me now invite for her speech, a goodwill message, the representative of Conduit Group Africa, United States of America, Rebecca King, for those few words before we continue. Let's applaud her as she comes up for her goodwill message. We skipped her earlier and then invited her, and she was absent for a while. You're highly welcome, Rebecca Kings.
All right, thank you everyone, and good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all today. I want to first thank the organizers for the kind invitation. It's encouraging to see so many people, familiar faces and both new for me in the crowd. At Conduit Africa, we focus on investing and unlocking investment for long-term development across the continent. So, of course, when I was asked to speak about space, to me, our biggest connection to space is opening up more economic corridors in Africa and how we can leverage space to create more opportunities for investment across the continent. So I feel like I had a perfect act to follow, because we're just coming off the tails of talking about capital and the challenges behind investing in space, and hopefully I can shed some light on how we at Conduit Group look at space and economic corridors. When we talk about economic corridors, we're not just talking about roads or railways or the things you might think of in a traditional sense. We're talking about trade routes, energy pipelines, digital infrastructure, and more. Even human capital and the link that countries and regions can come together with. They're meant to move people and goods and ideas and services faster, smarter, and more affordably across Africa. But as you all know, these corridors do not build themselves. They need planning, investment, data, technology, and cooperation. Increasingly, we've seen space-based tools are helping us make better decisions and more informed decisions on how we transport routes, how we create infrastructure and investment across Africa, everything from monitoring the climate and land use to, as we all have heard, mining and agriculture. There's so many applications for space and how those applications can influence technology and the role that it plays in investment. So I think a lot of us in this room understand that unlocking investment is crucial to advancing space in Africa. And I think it's important that we all ground ourselves in what's in it for the investors, what's in it for folks like Conduit Group. And I would encourage you all, as you continue to innovate in the space of space and the industry, that you really challenge yourselves to be creative on the use cases of satellite technology, on the use cases of space and the data that comes with it. I see familiar faces here that use satellite technology for mining and other things. Those things can really drive a profit and make this industry much more attractive for foreign investment, and investment like ours. It can be tied into so many things that we're building. Less waste, more efficient spending, and stronger cases for bankability are what we're really looking at when it comes to space. I would challenge you all to really get more people involved, right? And that's why I appreciate the organizers for including us in this conversation, because including across sectors, investors, bankers, agri-tech folks, the whole gamut, right, is important to making sure we have collaboration and making space a viable investment in Africa. So let's get more people involved. Let's include the next generation of engineers, data scientists, and collaborate across countries. I saw Kenya's in the room with us and a couple of other countries, so these are all good signs that we're thinking more collaboratively to advance Africa as a whole, and not just individualistically by country. Again, I really encourage you all to continue to be creative. Think about the business use cases for space, because tying back to the gentleman ahead of me, that is what makes it bankable, right? We need to see investment as a bankable endeavor. We need to see space as a bankable endeavor, and Conduit Group and others like Hayes Group International and some of our other partners in the room are working very hard to do just that and bring more investment into the space across Africa. So I'll end with this. I truly believe Africa doesn't need to follow anybody else's blueprint. This continent has talent, ambition, and resources. What we need now is exactly what this room and this forum is intended to convene. We need coordination, we need commitment, and we need capital to connect the dots to make space happen. Conduit is committed to playing our part in this, and again, we're grateful for all of our partners here that allow us the opportunity to do that. And I believe that together, through investment, innovation, and collaboration, we can build corridors that connect not just places, but unlock potential across the continent and to space. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Please, let's put our hands together once again for her. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to quickly crave the indulgence of the protocol. We have limited seats on the stage, so we may need about 2 to 3 seats for the panelists to populate the seats on the stage. So please, let's do that very quickly if it's possible. 2 to 3 more seats on the stage. Thank you as we commence this panel discussions. Thank you. Until that is done, I may not be able to invite members of the panel to populate the seats on the stage. Thank you. We need 2 seats. We have some seats there. Can we please relocate them from where they are to the stage? I had said this earlier, and I think we forgot. Thank you.
Just recognize as immigration representative and this individual of not present.
Say they come upstage now.
No, if you can, they come upstairs.
Are you for real?
Let's try that again. Yeah, next one on Monday. Just to recognize that she's there. They recognize the controller general as present.
This one said will come up, sir. So while that is going on, let me specially recognize the presence of the representative of the Comptroller General of Immigrations. Please, let's put our hands together for Comptroller Maduka Hope. He's here representing the Comptroller General of Immigration. Please, sir, stand for recognition at this time. Thank you. Equally, we have representing the Managing Director, Nightcom Sat. Please put your hands together for Olufunke Fagbeja. Thank you. Please stand for recognition. Wherever you are. Okay, thank you very much for coming. You have a role to play in the next panel session. Thank you. So, if we have our seats ready, permit me now to invite the moderator for this session. And of course, if you have your program, turn with me to page 23 here. The topic for discussion will be commercializing space technology for national and continental security, challenges and opportunities. To moderate this session is no other than my good brother, my co-compare at this event. He is himself an editor of no mean repute. Please join me as I invite Mr. Sunday Michael Ugu to please take his seat on the stage. Please put your hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. He's an editor with Pinnacle Daily. Do we have anyone here representing Air Vice Marshal Lanre Oluwatoyin from the Defense Space Administration? Do we have anyone representing him here? Good. Okay, let me now bring up on the stage Air Vice Marshal retired Charles Ategbola. Air Vice Marshal Charles Ategbola retired. Please put your hands together for him as he joins the moderator on the stage. You're highly welcome, sir, and we are delighted to have you join us for this very important event. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here with us A.R. Adeyemi, who is the Police Commissioner for Communication, and he will be joining the moderator and other panelists on the stage. Please put your hands together for him as he takes his seat on the stage. A.R. Adeyemi is the Police Commissioner for Communication. You're highly welcome, sir. We have here representing the Comptroller General of Immigration. Himself, ladies and gentlemen, is a Comptroller of Immigration. Please join me as I bring up to the stage Maduka Hope. Please put your hands together for him as he comes to represent his principal, the Comptroller General of Immigration, to speak on this crucial national assignment. We have also with us, ladies and gentlemen, Commodore Christian Anuge, retired. Commodore Christian Anuge, retired. Please put your hands together for him as he joins his colleagues on the panel session. Thank you, Commodore retired Christian Anuge. Okay, the last but certainly not the least, we have representing the Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Anthony U. Etuegbere. Anthony U. Etuechere. Please put your hands together for him as he comes to represent the Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps to also lend his voice on this very crucial national topic. Thank you. So, we are done with the panel. The moderator is set. May I now relinquish the microphone to the moderator to please commence proceedings for the first panel discussion. Mr. Sunday, please.
Thank you very much. Candidate. Let me know if you're through with what you're doing. So we can go ahead. Thank you very much, my brother Okon, for that graceful introduction of members of the panel. Let me set the ground rules before we begin. In earnest, we would have each member of the panel. This is supposed to last for a period of about 45 minutes. We will do our best to ensure that we don't exceed that. Now that we are talking about space technology and all, we probably will even land much earlier than the time that is specified here so that we can save ourselves some time, make progress on the event, and see how we can move forward. We'll have members of our panels give their initial impression of some of the comments that have been made by special guests in this occasion. We'll have one or two questions, and we would give opportunities to those of you on the other side of the divide to also share perspective with us or even ask questions to these noble men here to provide answers for. I want to once again thank you all for being part of this panel and to have been chosen, of course, to help us understand and further broaden perspective on this conversation. We are discussing commercializing space technology for national and continental security challenges. For continental security, challenges and opportunity. And I will start, of course, from my very right hand with AVM Charles. You were part of this conversation when we started this morning. You listened particularly to two of the keynote address that were given. Lastly, by Engineer Ade, talking about challenges, opportunities that exist within this space, coming from the security community and what we currently experience. The unique experiences of our country at this particular point in time, whether it is in fighting insecurity or border controls and all of that. What is your initial thoughts about some of the things that the speakers have spoken to?
Okay. All right. First of all, let me thank the organizers for finding me worthy to be invited to chip in my 2 cents on the topic of discussion today. But before I proceed, let me please make a quick correction. My name is not Ategbola or something like that. My name is Otegbade. I find it that people, even when I tell them that my name is Otegbade, they still write Otegbola. I prefer Ade to Ola because when you have Ade, you already have Ola. My friend can, from Profos, can decode for you. Thank you very much also for the question. I've listened to the discussions, and I think Miss King, Rebecca, hello? That's her? Oh, she's not paying attention. All right. She actually highlighted quite a number of things that I would have loved to highlight as what will require going forward. However, if you will permit me, I want to turn the table a little bit. You said something that with my background in the military, I retired recently. And fortunately, while I was in the service, I had the good fortune of canvassing for and midwifing critical aspects of the mega space capabilities, either by infrastructure, Dr. Osman can testify, or by developing capabilities also in the service. And it's a good thing that I see we have quite a number of senior police officers here, but we do not have military people, most serving, that are here. So I am not an expert in financing and all those things, so I'm not going to be, my interjection will be on the side of national security. I have something that is prepared, but if I want to go through it, it may waste a little time. I will just summarize. And my summary will be like this, that I want to look at it from the point of view that let us say that we were successful in getting private sector to participate in space. Who is going, just like my brother Ade said, who is going to patronize the space product? Especially for the purposes of our discussion today, we say is national security. So what exactly is national security? In my time in the service, I have come across a number of proposals that it is clear that the people that are bringing the proposal, they don't even know what they are talking about. So I want to come from the angle that while the commercial sector, the private sector is looking at improving capacity, attracting funds, and what have you, you need to also learn what you need to provide for the national security architecture. In actual fact, I have always had the same similar challenge from the user's perspective. And my intervention with them, what I mean by that is that you find a lot of, within the national security architecture, they are not so much aware of what space can do for them. So when I meet with them, I try to encourage them to learn what space can do for them. So I'm encouraging both the civil space sector, headed by my dear brother here. He's already in the know. He has already been, in fact, since long time ago, he has been striving to get that. So I'm encouraging the private sector too also to get into the act. It is not sufficient that you just go to space. You must understand your market. You must understand what the national security sector, what they require, and you must be able to present it properly. That's the first thing that I want us to, because ultimately, if I were to still be in service and I find out that I need space products, I'm constrained by what you are also constrained with, funding, oversight, and all those things. So I am going to go for a system that best optimizes my need. So it is not enough for us to just assume that, if we commercialize, then the end user must procure. It has happened before, where you will say, okay, look, there is a local capacity, but the person that is procuring will still decide that he wants to go for foreign, for whatever reason. You understand? So what I'm canvassing for there is that we need to understand that as a private sector, that the end user, for national security, space for national security, it's many supply, one user. And that one user will be concerned about some risks. So you need to tutor yourself about those risks that the one user will consider. It is not, I'm telling you that it's not going to be automatic that when you have, Mr. Ade, I'm sure you can bear testimony. I dealt with him before, though not on space, but on armored vehicles. You have to convince people that, yes, I can do this armored vehicle, but it is even better. It is not enough that it is just made in Nigeria and is made in Ogun State, and then you must buy it. Because the person who wants to buy is constrained too by a lot of factors. So he may end up still leaving your own system to go for other system. Ultimately, like we say, there are three options that a typical user will take. Either it goes to custom built or commercial off the shelf, or he relies on products. So we need to be sure that we can satisfy the need. So what I want to quickly talk about, as my thought, is that I don't want to talk too much about the challenges. You have mentioned some of the challenges. Ms. King too mentioned a number of challenges. I just want to talk about low-hanging fruits. What are the things that I think we can do? What are considered as opportunity? You recall, I can see Dr. Osman here. He helped us to set up a geospatial center. I can see you here. You are on the manufacturer end. He is on the what do you call it? What now? The service end. So you have a lot of, it's a whole industry on itself. So I am canvassing that, first of all, as you are looking for these finances and want to commercialize, you should get together also. Form like what we call maybe a kind of like pressure group, where you can exchange ideas. And why I'm saying so is because of what I said earlier on, that you actually have one market for national space. I mean, for national security. Whether it is the army you are going to, in fact, now, what our national space policy says that anything that has to do with security, you go to DSA. So in essence, that's Defense Space Administration, supposed to provide services for the military and all the other paramilitary agencies and even the intelligence services, which means that as many as you may be, you will ultimately maybe have one customer. So you need to get together and then maybe you establish a kind of like an association such that you can approach the government or the end user. All right. Sorry, just a minute too. I've already indicated that there is a lack of knowledge on both sides. From your side, I have seen, because of my interaction, there is a minimal knowledge of, or let me say inadequate knowledge of what is required in the national security sector. In the national security sector, there is minimal or inadequate knowledge of what space can offer. So that's why I'm very, very happy with, I didn't participate in the first edition, but TV Udo was here. It's my twin brother in space. So he briefed me what was up. So I encourage, and like Ms. King said, that you need to expand the participation. Get banks to come. Get insurance people to come. You said something that we tend not to value intangible things, even though sometimes it is the intangible things that ultimately control the tangible. You go to a bank and they are telling you that, show me proof. Meanwhile, so you need to get them here so that so I'm canvassing also that you extend this kind of, interaction, maybe focused interaction, you attend to, when you have formed this association, the association attends to bankers, talk to them, attend to insurers, talk to them. And then lastly, there is a limitation on even the people that you want to market to by law. This, Procurement Act. You mentioned something about changing rules and all those things. I am singling out the Procurement Act. When you form this pressure group and you are meeting with all this, you can mount, if my brother from NASDAQ tries to go to canvass that there should be some parts of the Procurement Act should be amended, they will start looking at him with an eye that maybe he has ulterior motive. But if the pressure comes from the private sector, because ultimately the way the Procurement Act works now, it's going to be very, very difficult because of what you require. It's going to be very difficult for the end user to actually utilize your services. So I will end here.
Thank you.
And then if there is other things to say later.
Thank you very much. Can we please give a round of applause to AVM Charles? Without dwelling so much on what he has highlighted, the Commissioner for Communications, he's talked about the inadequate knowledge around what the national security space requires, just as there is also a gap around the manufacturers or the security agencies understanding how much space can do for them. You are coming from a service arm that requires all of the capabilities that space can offer, like yesterday, given the enormous internal security challenges that you are dealing with. What has been the unique experience of the police, with regards to conversation around what we need to do around space?
Thank you so much. I want to appreciate Mr. Ade for that presentation. And it talks about cost, funding constraint, but he was looking at it generally in the area of him as a businessman. But I want to also say, as a security agent too, the recurrent cost of satellite service is also high. I give an instance some years ago we had a satellite. We have ground stations in the 37 states. We were subscribed to Intelsat, a quarter of transponder, about 9 meg that time. And NITEL was intermediary with us. And so we paid through NITEL. And it got to a time that the service provider said they want to relate with us directly. And since we get resources from the government, at times the resources might delay. And so we couldn't meet up. And we opted out of that. That was what we used to connect our wide area network then, the 7 states. We couldn't continue. And when Nicomsat came on, we approached Nicomsat. They were on Band C. And when Nicomsat came up, they were on extended Band C. And when we look at the cost, Nicomsat is even offering. It was even a bit higher. And it's going to even affect us, even tuning our equipment to or changing some of the component. So cost is one of the things that they need to look at too. Because if we as end users must come in, then we must be able to bring it at a reasonable cost, because there are some recurrent costs that goes about that. That is one they should take note of. And also, they should also take note of capacity building too. I would think that the DG, NASA should be able to incorporate some of the security agents in their training. And that is very, very important so that we can have knowledge on that. There was one time University of Ife was organizing such training, but it has to be sponsored by the security agencies themselves. But we were able to sponsor just few people and we couldn't continue any longer. So you can see that funding is one of the issues, capacity building. When the presenter was presenting, he didn't talk about, maybe they will still talk about that, regulatory or policy issues. I think that should also be considered, because when you bring in more people, even to provide this service, actually it will bring more, it will reduce costs because there will be competition when there are more people. But there must be a regulator to be able to regulate this. I don't know whether NADA is doing that, but I happen to understand that NCC licensed those that are on that service for now. And if NCC is licensing that, do they actually monitor or regulate what the service provider will do? The satellite service, that's one of the areas we should look at seriously. How to regulate to allow security of that space. We should be able to regulate that. I don't know if that should be in part of what should be considered. I don't know whether maybe NASA is just on research issue. But I think they should also be able to look at that. And if possible, because we have NBC regulating the broadcasting aspect, I should look at this. When the satellite service come on board, I should look at that also as something that they should consider and see how that can be properly regulated too. That. And let me also look at some things I also put down here, which I feel will be very important to look at. When you look at also talking about satellite services, you will look at cyber attacks too. And those areas are very important. I don't know where we're looking at that. The cyber attacks, which may compromise the national interest and even as a continental issue. That's also, men should be trained on that area, be able to at least provide prevention measure on that. And also, I also look at it also, that physical also, nowadays, you see all these infrastructures are being destroyed and being vandalized. You have your own ground stations too. That protection should be there too. Thank God for the approval of the Mr. President about critical national information and infrastructure plan, whereby they see all this equipment, all this infrastructure as critical, and they provide security for that. But that also should be considered in protecting that. That is the physical aspect of it. Okay.
I hear everything you are saying about what should be taken care of or what should be considered. My concern, listening to you, is the police as a critical partner in this infrastructure building, thinking about how it can meet some of these agencies halfway. You have provisions in the budget for other things. Is it possible that some of these provisions can be directed in the area of providing this infrastructure, because it's like some of the presenters said, this greatly enhances your capacity and technology, to provide the services you provide. Is this something the police is thinking about, that this critical challenge of funding is something we can take a bit of it and allow other agencies take others, so that together we can close the gap that exists?
We are also looking at that's why we talk about inter-agency collaboration, whereby if the police is this security satellite services is very crucial to us now. That was why initially when we started, we went into the satellite service, But now the funding is part of it. But if there's a way there can be collaboration, where if you talk about intelligence gathering now, there is a share of intelligence, this thing where we can get that from some other agency, and the crucial ones we need, like communication satellites, whereby we can have a seamless communication, because there are some remote areas where the terrestrial communication cannot reach. All those areas, we can budget for that, but there are other areas we can complement each other, whereby other services like defense, space administrations can also be there, where there can be an exchange of intelligence on that. That will be intelligence collaboration. It will reduce cost of the government, since we are looking at one goal in achieving government progress.
Controller Maduka, I'm coming to you. The immigration service it's another frontier where the whole conversation around space is heavily critical. We have a border stretching over 1,000 kilometers unmanned, or we don't even have the human capacity to do those manning as it currently stands. Recently, we were listening to the CDS talking about the possibility of fencing borders, and I imagine how much that would require in modern day Nigeria. But with space technology, we are able to leapfrog, some of these challenges. Can you share with us what the thinking of immigration is around the importance of space technology, around the things you do in our borders, considering the critical challenge we'd have with all kinds of people making their way in and out, freely in and out of this country, constituting all kinds of dangers to us?
Thank you. I'm seated here at the pleasure of my Controller General, and I want to let you know that the Immigration Service has been doing a lot. There are some of the challenges we face has to do with funding. There are competing interests for the limited resources that the government has, and the government on its own part has been very generous to immigration. In fact, the last time His Excellency, the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, came to Immigration Service earlier this year, it was to commission the Baptist Center, the Bola Ahmed Technology Center in Immigration Service. It's the ground station for our monitoring service across the border. In terms of what is going on here, it would be appreciated if, in a bid to incorporate into border management the issue of space technology, that some of the ideas, because if you bring out, like a gentleman here said, there is one consumer. When you talk of national security, you have to bring it up with the consumer, and then together you define. It's like working from the answer. He has what he wants to do. Like in our own case, it is border management. It will be a tall order, though not impossible, fencing the land border, But we'll find out that with satellite technology, if you have satellites with high resolution cameras, you can have a situation where you can monitor the land borders. But you find out that for some of these things to actually take place, we should start with, when the concept comes up, we should start with the training, the ground station, the personnel to man it. I think that is where it should actually start from. That presently immigration has in-house. With the help of Honorable Minister, Dr. Tunji Ojo. That is ongoing, but it is not exhaustive. There is room for partnership. There is room, like again, someone said, the knowledge is not exhaustive. The outside, the corporate world can always come up with greater ideas. When they come up with superior ideas, they will be incorporated into it. One challenge that has existed before now is the issue of the software. Because when you come and you want to hold on to the software, we'll struggle for it because tomorrow you hold us to ransom. We'll tell you want to modify it with the advances, but you might put us in a difficult situation. So yes, we would welcome partnership. They define what they have to offer, and we tell them this is what we desire to accomplish. And then we'll sit down and meet somewhere where further experience resources are required in terms of manpower. We have technical partners outside. We reach out to the police, to the military. We go on interagency relationship. Go ahead. So to say, what I am emphasizing in a nutshell is that yes, there are challenges, but we are doing, but what we are not where we should be yet.
Thank you. I would come to Komodo. You have been in the system, now you're out. And I'm sure by the virtue of your experience, you have tested words. And you may have also experienced this conversation outside the shores of this country, and you have seen firsthand how these things work. You've listened to some of the introductory remarks by some of those who have spoken. It appears the people in service are saying those on the other side should meet us halfway. They undertake all of the research and meet us where we need them. But ultimately, the conversation around national security is something that should be led by the government and should be priority number one in terms of funding. What are the models that you think should be realistic for Nigeria to fund, given the constraints by individual agencies to pursue these initiatives? How do we develop an ecosystem that harnesses resources in one pool and develop something that serves each of the service center?
Thank you very much. Before the presenter initiated the introduction of this paper, he painted two positive scenarios about the efficacy of space to national security. I'll come to your question, but permit me to also paint two scenarios. One may not sound so good, but the other one is good. As I was watching the ongoing in Iraq and Israel over the weekend, we saw a lot of missiles flying across both cities. The question that came to my mind was, what if Boko Haram, insurgents, and the bandits master the act of rocketry before the Nigerian military? What are we going to do? They may not master it with their own hands, but they can collaborate with some other people who are also pursuing their interests to begin to rain rockets over our cities. This is a challenge that the space community, both the defense and the military, should begin to reason in this direction in terms of rocketry and counter-rocketry, because these technologies are closely related to launch and launch services. It's a challenge, but it's an opportunity for investment. I'm glad the presenter talked about manufacturing satellites locally in Nigeria and having an assembly, integration, and testing plants or facility in Nigeria. I think that should also extend to rocketry and launch services. We need to master that act. It's a challenge and it's an opportunity for the space community in Nigeria. Then back to your question. You talked about the funding model that we want to adopt. Right now, what we do is that the space funding comes under the normal national budgets. NASDA under the Ministry of Science and Tech, drug their budget from Ministry of Science and Tech, the DSA under the Ministry of Defense, and the NACOMSAT under the Ministry of Digital Economy, Communication and Digital Economy. I think there's a need to have a space budget for Nigeria. It should be taken out of the normal ministerial budget. That's on the government side. There's no country that is doing well in space globally that does not have a space budget. Nigeria ought to have a space budget by now, not just tied to other parastatals in the various ministries. That's my suggestion on that. And also there should be more public sector involvement in funding space. It shouldn't just be a government affair. Companies, individual investors should also contribute to that funding so that it's be a matter of synergy. It's true government is the biggest customer in space, security services, but by extension, everybody is a consumer. So the private sector should support government actively in terms of funding in space. But that's on the hand side, there's already a space budget. It should be a non-commerce funding, not just one. Then again, the second scenario I want to paint here is that a lot of massacre took place in a place like Benue State recently. We're all aware. People were killed. And up till now, I don't think the perpetrators have been brought to book. How I wish by now they will be parading all those people that are doing such nefarious activities. That will, in a way, curb a reoccurrence. What I'm trying to say is that the perception of being watched deter the insurgents from making mischief. The fact that you know there's a satellite watching over you, that alone will deter whatever you want to do. They won't have that freedom of action. So what I'm trying to say is that we must saturate the entire space of Nigeria by satellite. I don't know how we are going to do it. We cannot do it by our indigenous satellite. We should borrow or we should purchase. I know it's expensive, but we can look at ways to make it more affordable. Let there be some apps, some archival banks that can be accessed on our various systems. It shouldn't be always running to NASDA. Let there be a way we can actually commercialize access to satellites so that security agencies can have cheaper, faster, and more robust access to satellite technology. This is another challenge and an opportunity for investors. The military or the security agencies cannot do this alone. The private sector have to develop some of these devices that can make space more accessible for the security forces. Never in the history of Nigeria since independence have security services been overstretched as it is now. The strength of the army or the police or other security agencies is not coping adequately with the size of Nigeria vis-a-vis the security challenges we are having. So space must be brought to bear. And this has to be done between the civil and military and security organizations.
Thank you.
And again, let me add here that the collaboration we're asking for has to be strengthened, not just among policymakers, but among operators. Personally, I didn't know anything about space until I was a commander in the Navy. By the time I finished my training and all of that, it was time up. I was retired. But I'm thinking that we can go a bit lower. Let space awareness be created even among the rank and files, the junior officers, these training schools. There's a need to begin to hammer the awareness on them so that by they grow up along their career, they will carry along this awareness until they become policy makers. That is a challenge for both the military, especially the DSA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I thank you for highlighting. Thank you very much for clapping. I thank you for highlighting that critical human resource development need that may not need the kind of budget we need to fix the spaces. Those ones with collaborations with some universities, I'm sure they can provide. So my brother from the Road Safety Commission, the retired Commodore spoke to two critical things I would like you to expand on. The first one, he talked about the perception of being watched, in itself helps, to check deviance or mischief. And he also talked about inadequate human resource. If the army and the police can complain about inadequate human resource, I doubt how many you even have to check to check deviants around your area of operation. Kindly help us understand the use case, for the road safety in terms of the opportunities provided by space, that can enhance some of the things that you do. I hope I'm clear on that question.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, we all should understand that FRSC, as a government agency, is basically an end user of space-generated technology. And it is important for every one of us to know that the use of space-generated data in particular is to our advantage and is something we should embrace as a nation. For example, if you're talking about traffic control, remote traffic controlling, where you don't have human input directly, it's very important. It's very easy when you have satellite-to-earth data that can help in operating the traffic system, traffic control system, the traffic control light. It gives you a precise time for vehicles to move at a particular point, to stop. And though we understand that Nigerians, motorists in Nigeria are not as law-abiding as we ought to be, but when you have this technology installed, to a great extent, it will deter the congestions we have, it will deter the kind of recklessness we have on our roads, and then it will improve on the safety of vehicles and occupants in the country. Now, akin to that is the fact that when you have satellite-to-earth information, real-time information, it will help us also, for example, to say, the road between, the portion of road between Lokoja and Abuja, for example, there is a mishap or there is something, please, if commuters can take a diversion, that will help, you understand? Yes. Or even to predict, maybe crashes and alert rescue operators to come in. You can get such real-time satellite-to-earth information, and if you do, you will be more efficient. You'll be operating within the golden hour for rescue, and that will help the Nigerian situation.
Thank you very much. My director has signposted twice that we have run out of time, largely so because of the size of the panel. But with your kind permission, I would like, some of my participants have spoken to things that I would like Ade to respond to, with regards to efforts in that area. And I would like another 1 or 2 minutes to the DG Nasra, so to also further expand on areas of collaborations that are open to these institutions to build capacity in the country. So one minute, can I get, I need the roving mic to get to them. 1 minute each to give their perspective on some of the issues that have been raised around the opportunities for collaboration.
Thank you very much, the moderator and all the speakers. Myself and the GMD of Provost, we are doing tete-a-tete to carefully listen to the contributions of the speakers. And I used to tell Nigerian youth, wherever you hear about problems, there is money to be made from that. When the Commissioner of Police talked about the grand station that they used to have during the time of NITEL, now we have communication satellite that can give you direct-to-equipment solutions. You may still need ground station, but now we have so many business models. I just believe and I hope that the youth and the business community here are picking those challenges and looking at the money that is on the table. Because space economy and emerging markets in Africa we come together and cluster to become billions opportunity from immigration problems that the Nigerian police is facing, the problem that the military are facing, including our brothers on the road management opportunity too, challenges. So these are opportunities in which when you bring solutions to the table, then money will naturally follow you. And we want to thank all the speakers for bringing to the table the challenges that we have in different ecosystems and how our engineers and scientists and innovators will respond positively to it and begin to make that money that we believe we should produce billionaires from the space sector. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will commend all the speakers, and I will say something. I can comment on a few comments on what the AVM said, the road safety, immigration. But I'll say something, a few things. You see, as a businessman sees solutions, not problems. That's the first thing you should realize about any businessman. He sees solutions in everything he does. Funding is supposed to be a problem, but at the end of the day, it ends up not being a problem. And I'll tell you why. We are talking about funding. The road safety man said funding, the immigration said funding and everything. A businessman will look at it from a different angle entirely. You are going into space, aerospace industry. You know it requires billions of dollars. The first thing you think about is going public. And even before going public, you can do private placement. So many people are interested in the aerospace industry. Bring in like minds that have a lot of money together. It makes a lot of sense if you own 20% of something huge than to own 100% of something small. So you bring in private investors together. And that's why we don't see any problem in funding. In as much as funding may be a problem, but we don't see any problem. I was just telling him that we are bringing in private investors. Profos, we don't mind owning 10% as long as it is majority. Bringing in billions together and then having a world-renowned, globally accepted data center whereby data from all over the world can be assessed, not only in Nigeria and not only in Africa, but everywhere, all over the world, a lot of data. And for example, I met quite a number of people who are interested in what I'm talking about, who want to put money together, who are telling me that they want to bring in Bloomberg and they want to bring in Amazon. They want to bring in all these people. And I said, we are ready. That's a typical example. And then the AVM said, there is only one person that will patronize us. That is yes and no. The reason why you are saying that is because we are still thinking locally. If you think strategically and globally, you realize that you don't just have one person. You have the whole world patronizing you. So even when your own satellite is in a different orbit entirely, you have people from India patronizing you. You have people from the US patronizing you. You have people from China patronizing you. So it is not just Nigeria. It is not just Nigeria. It's not people just from Nigeria. So that is the way we should be thinking. And that is the way a businessman thinks. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you very much, Ade, for that, and the MD for those fantastic response, which basically tells us that where there is a problem, there is a solution, and as the MD said, there is money to be made. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Emetu Chair, for that wonderful submissions about use cases for the road safety. Commodore, thank you very much. It appears you are retired but not tired, and this country has so much to learn from you. AVM, you just recently stepped out, but hopefully we can continue to harvest this knowledge and training that you had, but having the opportunity to share long enough with us in the service. I want to thank you very much, the Controller of Communications. Thank you very much, Controller Maduka, for your effort and service to Motherland and for the effort you continue to make to advance the conversation around space and its benefits to various service. This is all time would allow us to take. I want to thank you very much for your rapt attention, and I hope that we will continue to explore this opportunity to take this conversation forward. Once again, a round of applause to these panelists for doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, let's have a group photograph. Group photograph, the moderator and all the panelists. Let's have a group photograph. Thereafter, you please wait for a presentation by the members of the Central Planning Committee. I see the co-chairman and, of course, the conference director. So after the group photograph, we can have the presentations. Thank you. Where do you want it done? DG Nasdaq joining, and of course the GMD Provost Galaxies. Please hold on, the DG Nasdaq is coming. So while all this is going on, we'll be preparing for the next panel session. The next panel session will be coming up very shortly. These are all men who have contributed enormously to national development and for the country. Please put your hands together for everyone who has actually made this session a very huge success. Thank you. So please, let's have the special presentations from members of the Central Planning Committee to all the panelists for doing the yeoman's job. Congratulations to you all, the moderator, and all the team of panelists for lending your voice on this crucial national issue. Security in particular was discussed. The next session will also take 35 to 40 minutes or less. And let me put my moderator for the session on standby, Mr. Iye Kemabunta. Mr. Iye Kemabunta is ASEC consultant. Please be on standby. I'll be inviting you shortly to moderate the second session of this conference. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for these gentlemen for what they have done. Thank you. Thank you. So I will be reconstituting the next panel. To chair this session by way of moderating, let me now invite Mr. Iye Kemabunta to please step forward. Please put your hands together for him as he comes. He's in the hall. Okay. Please put your hands together for him. He is the ASEC consultant, and he will be leading the charge for this session. Please put your hands together once again for him, ladies and gentlemen. He's been working assiduously day and night to ensure that this event is actually successful. Okay. Let me now constitute the panel. The first is the Director General of NITDA, Kashifu Inuwa, who is here, ably represented by no other than the Director, Information Technology and Infrastructure Solution. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Oladijo Olawumi. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up. Keep clapping, please. Thank you very much. Representing the DG NITDA. Also to join the panel is the Managing Director of NITComSat, Mrs. Jane Egerton Iden, but she's ably represented here at this event by Mrs. Olufunke Fagbeja. Is she here? Please put your hands together for Mrs. Fagbeja as she joins other members of the panel. Thank you so much, Ma, for coming. She's a known face, and we are sure to get the best out of her this afternoon. Do we have anyone representing the MD Zynox Technologies? If you're here representing the MD Zynox Technology, please indicate by a lift of hand. Otherwise, we move on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have also to join the panel Ambassador Honorable Executive Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Data Analytics, Privacy Technology, Mr. Segun Olugbile. Please put your hands together for him as he joins the other members of the panel. Thank you very much. We have 3 panelists and we have our moderator. And this session is to last not longer than 35 to 40 minutes. So please, Mr. Moderator, if you're ready, Mr. Moderator, your time starts now. The moderator, sir. The time starts now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like us to proceed straight away. We've been introduced. I don't need to repeat that process. The lady, you know, represents her institution. Is it NITComSat? And then the gentleman by my side represents Nigeria's regulator for the digital economy, essentially, the critical part of it. And then we'll have the private sector person who's running a business, but he's also into sovereign data, as it were, essentially. So we'll proceed. The topic is how to diversify the Nigerian economy, essentially. But I'll say using space technology. Space technology, generally speaking, is a very broad term, in my opinion, that has to deal with anything that has data, that has internet, that deals with the cyberspace, that concerns even emerging technologies, the full spectrum of it. So all 3 of them are very well positioned to talk about diversification. So I'll give them each 3 minutes to give an introduction of what they know diversification is all about and how what they do is relevant to diversification. So we'll begin from my extreme right, the ambassador. I call him ambassador, he really is. So incidentally, I had a dream last night where he was addressed as Dr. Olugbile, Segun Olugbile, and my dreams come true. So are you a PhD holder now, or you almost? Because my dreams come true.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Anyway, so let's go to the topic. You are an expert in cybersecurity, and that's cyberspace. From that angle, let's have your 3 minutes intervention on how that itself is relevant to innovation, relevant to job creation, and then as well diversifying the Nigerian economy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I like being very practical. I went there to see what is going on by the exhibitor over there. But somehow, I saw the drones being exhibited, and we got talking in my response to what you are talking about. And the young man was very happy to see that now we are doing drones, we are doing that. And I said, okay, if these drones are used for intervention like surveillance and all that, can they be intercepted? He said yes. And while we're talking, that reminds me that space economy has a very strategic intersection with the digital economy. As we're talking, the space infrastructure in Nigeria has been designated as a critical national infrastructure within the context of the National Cybersecurity Program. So for me, there is an abundant opportunities and a relationship between what I do as a cybersecurity professional, and then it also in the context of data as well, because the space technology deals with data. The surveillance is about data, generating data from extra, whatever space. So for me, there is a correlation, there is a strategic relationship, and I want to look more into how digital economy can be supported through the use of space technology infrastructure. Because without it, Nigerian cannot really achieve what I would call digital sovereignty. Like the last speaker said, which is really very interesting to watch, the fighting going on between the Iran and the Israel. And we see a clear display of the superiority of technology. And the question that came to my mind, just like what that man said, if Nigeria, if we are to fight this, do we have internal capability to do that? So I believe that digital economy has a lot to gain if Nigeria can do a lot of investment in space technology. Let me stop here, then we can move forward later.
Thank you. This is just the introductory part. I wanted to give you all 3 minutes each to make your first pitch. So, do I go to you, Dejo?
Thank you very much. I bring you greetings from National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. So, I would like to bring us back to land from space. So now, we've been talking about space, and when it comes to what we now do with the technology, the space technology, actually, we are talking about the things we do with digital economy. So what we have been trying to do in NIDA is to see how we can now reap all the opportunities that are inherent in the space technology, the digital economy. And then we now look at also after looking about the opportunities, look at the challenges. And what are some of these challenges? These challenges we have, which we are trying to cope with regulation, because we are a regulatory agency in NIDA, is to ensure that we provide the right capacity, the right training. We call it developing the capacity of our youth, our individuals in Nigeria, because you realize that we have a great population of youth, which is actually an opportunity for us in Nigeria, in Africa. So that is one of the things we are trying to do, building digital capacity. Another thing we have realized is the infrastructure, because we have been talking about infrastructure, bringing this infrastructure down to land now. When you have all this space, the satellites, what of when you now get to the earth? What do you do? The fiber, the computers, the networking things. We are also trying to see how to ensure that we have equitable access to this infrastructure. Another thing which we have already started discussing about, because we have been talking about security, is data, which I believe we are going to get into it much in the discussion. We're trying to see what we'll do with that data because it's very key. Maybe in the discussion we'll get into more of it. Those are some of the things. Then regulation, which is very key because we have all these things. We have individuals, we have startups coming up with ideas. How do we regulate them? Because we are talking about security now. This is a critical area of the economy. Imagine this infrastructure, this critical security equipment getting into the wrong hands. Imagine it getting into hands of individuals that don't know how to handle it. So we are dealing with the regulation. So coming to regulations, provision of infrastructure, building the digital capacity and the data. Those are the things we do to support this space technology and to see how to support the opportunities in space technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dejo. Let's come to Olufenke. Oh, okay. I'll share my mic with you. So, NIGECOMSAT, I just want to get a sense of how you perceive diversification from the angle of the mandate of that satellite company. First of all, let's do that introduction.
Thank you very much. Permit me, let me first start by conveying the apologies of my MD CEO. She would have loved to be here, but for conflicting engagement, and that's why I'm here. And then permit me to bring us, or take us back to space. They just brought us back to Earth, or back to the land, but I would want to take us back to space. Okay, talking about diversification, I would like to look at it from this perspective, that it's basically about deploying space-enabled solutions to addressing real-life challenges. And when we're talking about diversification, we should be careful to accentuate some things, accentuate job creation and income generation, because that's when it would be impactful. That's the beauty of diversification, making it impactful. That's when you can foster social economic development. Now, talking about space-deployed solutions to addressing real-life challenges, that's what we're all about in NIGECOMSAT. The first panel discussion we had, I think there was one of the panelists that talked about the fact that people providing services and solutions should also consider the needs of the users, what the users need exactly, and that's the solution they should provide. And of course, that's very, very important. We are into connectivity, internet connectivity, and I'll give you a practical example of how we are deploying space-based solutions to solving real-life challenges, like I said. We have a project called 774 Local Government Area Connectivity, in which we are connecting we're providing connectivity, broadband internet, to all the 774 local government areas. And we're also connecting small businesses within those local government areas, providing digital access to them so that they can have access to e-commerce and so on. Now, the beauty of this, let me just say this quickly because of time. Let me tell you the beauty of this digital access that we're providing for these MSMEs, these small businesses. Between 2017 and 2020, about 3 million MSMEs shut down. Between 2020 and 2023, about 10 million MSMEs shut down. That's about 25%, a quarter of the MSMEs, according to the Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria. Alarmingly, within 1 year, between 2023 and 2024, about 30% MSMEs shut down, according to the Nigeria Economic Research Group. And one of the factors responsible for this is poor access to the market. And so NIGECOMSAT, through digital access, internet connectivity, is providing that access to those MSMEs, especially those ones in the remote areas, so that they can have access to digital market, to e-commerce. And what this does is that we are providing access to a market that transcends their physical location, that transcends their local boundaries. Remember what I said, providing space-enabled solutions to real-life challenges. Thank you.
Yes, hold the mic still. I would restart the next session with you. Okay. And I'm excited about the 774 project, which connects all of the local government areas in the country. And you've talked about giving them access to markets, the SMEs.
Yes.
Excellent. But talk a bit more about how access to the internet can create jobs, or what kind of jobs. That's really what you could stand for as a satellite institution offering access to the internet, essentially. So let's see, apart from the small and medium companies, let's speak generally. How would access to internet, regular, stable internet, be responsible for deepening the existing market or creating new markets and creating jobs? How would you market DigComSat on this project and get favorable attention of government or even satellite companies that are in this project who would want to partner with you to provide services to these 774 local government councils?
All right. Thank you very much. Access to the internet means access to information. So you have information at your fingertips. Information to access opportunities with regards to the sector. The beauty of space technology, satellite technology, is that it impacts various sectors. So access to the internet, what we are providing is access to information, access to various opportunities within other sectors. Now, one of the things we are doing is that we are also into training, installers training. We provided training in Lagos, in Jigawa, in Adamawa, and in other states like that. We are building up a vital talent pipeline. That's how we see it for this economy. So through that, we are creating jobs. Because if we have installation requests from all those states, then we would use the trainees that we have trained. So we are giving them jobs. We are giving them opportunities to be part of the ecosystem and to earn income in the process. So that's one of the things that we do again with regards to opportunities. Then with regards to the project, because I don't want to limit us to that project 774, because we are beyond that. We are also involved in broadcasting. Satellite technology plays a great role in broadcasting. In DigComSat, we have a head-end solution in which we broadcast signals for different TV stations and so on. So that's something else that people can ride on. TV stations can ride on. I think there was something in the news recently about the digital switchover. DigComSat is partnering and working concerning this one too, to provide that platform for broadcast stations within the industry. So that's something that DigComSat is also involved in. And then security. The last panel that we had, one of the panelists talked about the fact that DigComSat was contacted then, but the price was high, and then the extended C-band. With regards to the C-band, yes, our C-band is extended, and so people on standard C-band would need to change some things in their hardware, but there are some other advantages, apart from the fact that we have concentrated coverage, let me say that full coverage over Nigeria. We have, we put into consideration the peculiarities within the Nigerian market, talking about the topography, talking about, now we know that this Nigeria, of course, when you're talking about rain and so on, so we've put into consideration that fact concerning rain attenuation so that we have quality, we deliver quality service. So with regards to providing services to the security, we're already doing that to another arm of the security, and I'd like to invite the police that let's reinitiate the discussion. Let's start the discussion again. Let's see how DigComSat can provide services, communication. Communication can make a difference between life and death. So let's see how DigComSat can provide this service to the police, just like we've been providing to some of the sister agencies. So these are the various areas in which DigComSat is impacting various, even navigation. DigComSat plays a great role in navigation, in precision farming. So there are various things that DigComSat, like I said, because satellite technology impacts various sectors, and that's where you see us.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. I'm not going to let you off very easily. I still will stay with you. I'm interested in the youth, young Nigerians, the youth. And I wanted to hear you talk about how access to the internet would create jobs for them. I wanted to hear you about micro work, the gig economy, remote work, things like that. So I assume that you would agree that if the young persons had clean access to the internet, they can innovate. They can build businesses of their own. They won't need to be in public service. That's what I wanted to hear a bit more. If you're thinking that direction as NIGECOMSAT, and if is that part of your project in going into the hinterland.
Yes. And beyond that, beyond providing access for or platform for remote work, there's a program we have that is called NIGECOMSAT Accelerator Program, in which we're working with startups when it comes to innovation. So, for example, coincidentally or incidentally, we're launching the second version of the program tomorrow. We had a first version last year, in which we bring startups together, youth, startups together, innovators, and we're partnering with them. They are developing space-enabled solutions. So that's the beauty of this.
So are they in this conference?
They are preparing for tomorrow's launch, actually.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
All right, let's give you a breather. Let's come to the job. NIDA is, interestingly, a powerful agency by its status. And it has a lot to do with data that can be used for planning for all kinds of things. So I wanted to hear you talk a bit more about how data is relevant to all kinds of things, the growth of the economy, urban planning, educational planning, every kind of planning, and what NIDA can do to activate those areas, and so Nigerians can mine them. One example is open data. Open data as about 2023, or 2003 even, was generating about 13 billion pounds for the UK alone. Open data. So should we begin to look in that direction?
Thank you very much. So you mentioned data. So when it comes to the digital economy, basically everything we are trying to convey, to transport, to store, to gather, to transform is about data. Talking about digital transformation, we're trying to see how to create solutions, like one of the speakers mentioned, that businessmen actually look at how to get solutions, not the problems. They see how to get solutions. So how do we get solutions? It's about knowing how to use data. It's about knowing how to use the data behind the data, the metadata. For example, now we are here. We all have our phones here. And if you give me a call, I can only see your number, but behind the scenes, there are other things that some other people can see, some providers can see and make use of. They can see your location, they know your gender, they know the kind of, maybe when you live here, where you go to take your dinner or whatever. So those data, all those data is it's something that can be converted to money, actually, that be converted to services. And if you see what we have been doing already in Nigeria, the gig economy, you mentioned the gig economy, for example, there's so many small-scale businesses that have started, and basically what they have been using is the data. But when we come to the question of how this relates to open data, over the past few months, what we have been trying to do is to see how governments can actually consolidate on the data we have right now, consolidate on the services rendered by each MDA. For example, a key thing we are doing is the digital public infrastructure, to see how we can merge and make use of data across agencies. We call it interoperability. For example, customs have data, immigration, they have their own data, NIMC has their own data. How will CAC, for example, be able to use the data that NIMC has, instead of CAC trying to register or do all those things all over again? So what we have been trying to do is with the DPI, digital public infrastructure, is to see how we can get the three main stacks in the DPI, which is the identity, which is handled by NIMSI, the financial part of it, which is handled by the CBN, NBBS, that's for interoperability of data. Then the exchange part of it is what we are dealing with in NITDA. So we are dealing with three things here. So with the DPI, we are trying to structure and ensure that MDAs within themselves can communicate and make use of this data. So when you now start talking about open data, which is data that is available, is already available. So how do we make use of it? So like I mentioned earlier, the regulation part of it is what we are trying to see how we can create an environment to make sure that MDAs can easily work within themselves so that the citizen, the Nigerian citizen, will find it seamless communicating.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted you to talk a bit more about the wealth opportunity, the job opportunity in data exchange. The beauty of what you're describing, where data is exchanged by anybody and with anybody, for instance, that has data or willing to exchange data. Is that an opportunity for growth, for wealth creation? Is NITDA thinking in that direction? Are you going to allow participation of other entities in a manner that opens this space and creates job and wealth? It's not always job, but also wealth.
Yes, so like for what I've been saying is about creating the opportunity and creating the services. From the services to get the wealth. And like I mentioned earlier, there are so many services that have actually evolved around data now. For even when we talk about the ride-hailing services, you now have the Ubers, have the Bolts. It's a service that got created out of the use of, someone saw the use, he could make use of data, and he got that service created. And imagine the wealth that was created with that. Also, there's, like I mentioned earlier, the gig economy. Now you can stay in your house and order for food from a vendor and get it. It's all about data. So what we are trying to do at the back of the scene is to ensure that we are not trying to come into the actual service provision. What we're trying to do is to see how we can use regulation to ensure that we create the market and ensure that the market booms and there's security within the market. Because without that security, people will not trust the data. Because that is the key thing about data trust. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, that's fine. Really, I take it from there. I want to speak to Shego, Ambassador Shego. He talked about security of data, and you're a cybersecurity expert. Is there an intersection between cybersecurity and sovereign data? And if so, does it have potential for wealth and job creation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, in my own opinion, we have a very deep opportunity if the space economy can be opened up. Now, let me speak as a business person, because we heard from government side.
Space economy can be opened up. Don't rush. Explain what you mean.
Okay, I will do that. I think it is important to bring space economy closer to the grassroots. It is important to integrate space economy knowledge or space technology knowledge within the curriculum of our students and all that. And then, still going back to what I discovered there, I asked that, do we have drones park? A park dedicated to drones where you have children coming there? Let me ask us a question, because I love being interactive. How many of us have you seen our children playing with cartoon or playing with all manner of toys? Once you mention drones, they want to do something about it. So I think there's a need for the government to look at why they are creating IT park. Let there also be a drone park. That's number one. And number two, there are materials being used to manufacture drones. I asked the same person, so now tell me, what the level of the local components you have in drones, infrastructure, drone devices, and all that. So, and the guy said, fine, that they actually developed this thing. I said, what about the batteries? Do you also manufacture battery in Nigeria? So, I think it is important to, dismantle this, let me use the word, demystify space technology. Let's bring it home. Kids, our children will soon go into long-term break and all that. How can we have a park that has something like a space park? Throw them there. Let the government, put in funding and a little bit of infrastructure. If you look at the other side of us here, they are talking about High City Park. But I think it's the right time to start looking at how can the ICT Park be merged or be integrated with a space park as well. So not until when we domesticate this knowledge and bring it to the level of our children and youth and all that, then Nigeria will start building internal capacity. But for now, I can tell you, we are still speaking foreign. Our language still sounds very foreign. He's not speaking to my brother in the shop. If you go to area 3 there, or zone 3, they will tell you that, what is the hint for me? So I think it is important to start looking at the local content component of the space economy. How can we push that? I like this kind of philosophy. I heard from the government side that they are working on regulations and that and that. But let me say this, that it is always good to start by or from what we can control than to focus on what we cannot control. We can't compete with the developed world. Let me use the software, for example. If the government says that it wants Nigeria to start producing operating system, we are wasting our time because operating system has gone too far advanced. But if the government is okay, fine, let's see how we can generate content. Let's see how we can create application softwares. These are basic things that we can control. Basic things that government can put some funding, and the private sector can also put some funding, and with a little bit of regulations. If the regulation should say, fine, all schools in Nigeria should have a space lab, that would trigger actions. It will trigger the interest of school sector to come into space knowledge economy. So I think it is important for us to start thinking in that way, because in the final analysis, if Nigeria cannot develop digital sovereignty, we're in trouble. Because close to 99% of what we use in ICT are not produced by Nigerians. They're not produced here. So we shouldn't make mistake also in the space economy side. We should start looking at what we can produce from Nigeria, starting from the drone panels, starting from the devices component. And I think this is where the chambers of commerce can provide interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shegun. So we're beginning to wind down. I would throw this open to the public, to the audience. If anyone has a comment or question relating to job creation, relating to diversifying the Nigerian economy, please speak up. Is there a microphone? Yes, yes, sir. If you would stand, I'm sure they will see you and bring a microphone to you. Can I get assistance? Bring a microphone this way. Oh, I can give you mine. Oh, there's one here. We didn't even see it.
Mine is just a comment. I was looking at the concert, and when you did mention that you were providing internet services, and through that job creations were made, I was looking also that you can go further by providing what we call direct-to-device facilities, equipment that can also help where there are no terrestrial coverage, that can also be used there. I think there can be an innovation on those areas where you have what we call direct-to-device, where they can access directly. Because if you look at the market now, you find that most of the telcos are taking the market. But you can also develop some innovations where it will be easier. Like, for example, there's some proposals like tracking of our weapons where we don't have to use the normal Tesco infrastructure services, where we have to look at satellites where even there are no coverage for the telcos communication infrastructure operators. The satellites can also be an avenue for us to use, where you have direct to device. That's just my own contribution. You can look beyond just internet service provisions. Thank you so much.
One more. Is there another one? Otherwise, we'll round off. Yes, sir.
My name is Chief Peter Ozago. I'm a lawyer. I want to say that we have to, at times, look at the legal framework and some other things that militates some of these issues. Many have been talked about data protection and data issues. My concern is that let us look at the issue of privacy and the national interest and security as to data. Our laws here tend to favor privacy than the national interest. And when that is the issue, definitely we cannot make headway. Where we protect individuals more than the nation. The nation exists for the individual. And if there is no nation, the individual cannot exist. I give you an example. Somebody earlier talked about the Belt and Silk Road of China. In China, the truth remains that the concept of the Silk Road is where they built road infrastructures to all the families. There they put road, they put water, and they put CCTV. The issue of data is that what is private to you remains when you are in 4 walls of your room. If, for example, by 1 a.m., you decide to go out, you are only protected by the time you are dressing in 4 walls of your room. Immediately you step out, you are being monitored. And from there, anything that happens will be tracked. So if that is the issue, there many things are achieved. And when you reduce insecurity, economy is grown and boosted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll round off now. I'll give the panelists a minute each, at the most a minute and a half, to make their last pitch. Again, I move to Lufunke, which works for NACHCOMSAT. The question is simple. Is NACHCOMSAT creating jobs? And how? Yes, please, respond to him and then take your last comment.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question and suggestion with regards to direct-to-device. The beauty of satellites, Nigerian communication satellites, to be specific, is that we have coverage even where you don't have terrestrial infrastructure, where you don't have terrestrial presence at all. NACHCOMSAT has coverage in those areas. So I think I would take your contacts after this so we can talk further with regards to the solution that we have available that could be used by the police. So we could take it further after this. But that's the beauty of satellite, that without terrestrial infrastructure, we can still deploy services. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yes, are you creating jobs?
Yes, we are. We are creating jobs. For example, I talked about the training that we do. We work together with ISPs all over Nigeria with regards to connectivity. When we have our projects, we deploy services over Nigeria, but in order to also empower youth, empower Nigerians, that's where we have our capacity building. That's what I talked about earlier, that we go to Adamawa, to Lagos, Jigawa, and we train them on deployment, on VSAT installation, and things like that. So what we do is that we train them to be able to stand on their own, so that if we have a project in any of those regions, our engineers don't have to go there, because we've empowered them enough to be able to do that for us. So by that way, we are empowering them with regards to job creation. So that's one way that we do that. Then the startups, the accelerator program that I talked about, that we are launching the second version tomorrow. The beauty of this is that we are bringing young minds together to innovate. When you talk about innovation, there are three phases. The first one is basically invention, and that's where you have the startups, because they would discover new technology. Then you have the innovation itself, where the technology is applied. But the third one is the most important. That's the diffusion, where the technology is spread. So what we do is that we work with these startups, but we just don't leave them there. We work together to develop solutions that we can take to the market, and by doing that, they will bring in other youth and so on, thereby creating, so it's like a pipeline. They will bring in other youth, thereby adding more people to the ecosystem. So we create jobs and we add value in those areas.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have 2 minutes left. I'll offer you, Dejo, 1 minute of my 2 minutes.
All right, thank you, sir. So NIDA is creating jobs in many ways. Number one is we are actually building capacity to ensure that people have the capacity to do those jobs. We train people in emerging tech like artificial intelligence, robotics, and so cybersecurity to ensure that there's that repository of people that can handle jobs. And if you check it right now, we have individuals in Nigeria that are doing jobs. Jobs are being outsourced to them from outside the country, and are doing those jobs. Another way we are creating jobs is directly through our regulations. We ensure that most of the regulations we bring out have actually, they create a market. For example, the data privacy is there, that was from NIDA. Also the software testing and quality assurance there. We are creating jobs directly in the IT environment. Also, we do what we call entrepreneurship and innovation, which answers this question of if we actually have something we are doing in the area of robotics, which addresses some of what you are saying. So we actually we have hubs across the nation which are directly for that. So because of time, let me just stop here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. They will be available for some more if you ask them one-on-one questions. So Shegu, your own question is different. You're a private sector person. Has government created job for people like you?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important for NASDA, if I'm correct.
You are spending my last minute.
Yeah. It is important to have a cyber security component of our national space economy strategy. Though we have the military component, which is within the DSA, the Defense Space Administrations. But it's also good to have a domestication of approach to cyber security. Because if you look at NASA, they have a national cyber security focus for NASA operations. And within that context, there will be a whole lot of opportunity for Nigerians for people like me to play a role. I can play a role from conducting cybersecurity assessment of the project and operation as well. And I also like the concept, the idea raised that Nigeria focus too much on privacy. So it is also important.
I'm afraid time is run out, so make your conclusion.
I think that is all, that it is important to have the cybersecurity component of a national space economy strategy.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must thank you, Lufunke, and you, Dejo, and of course, Ambassador Shegu. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. So we'll bring this to a close. Right now, we'll step forward for a photograph, and that will be it for our session. A round of applause for them, the lady and the two gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Let's have the group photograph, the moderator and the panelists very briefly, and then also while that is going on, members of the committee, the co-chair and the conference director going to do the usual to present gift items to these distinguished Nigerians. So we have two more short presentations. The first will be coming from Mr. Shola, and then the other will come from Dr. Olotu. So let me confirm, do we have these two speakers in the house? Do we still have Mr. Shola in the house? Thank you very much. Let's also confirm if we have Dr. Gloria Ulutu. Is she in the house? Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll have those two short presentations before we go for lunch break and the exhibition tour. But before we go out for that, we'll be inviting Osi Imomo, the chairman organizing committee, to give us the closing remarks when the time comes. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for this last panel session we've just had. It's been wonderful and very, very inciting. Thank you. Put your hands together for them as they take their leave of the podium. So, to be speaking to us now on the place of satellite technology in economic and financial inclusion in Africa, may I most respectfully invite the Group Director, Financial Inclusion Professionals Network PLC, Mr. Shola Bichkeshet, to please take his time now. Thank you. Yeah. Please, sir, you have your time now. Thank you. Yeah, please, sir, you have just some 15 minutes. If you can limit your presentation to 15 minutes for the want of time. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I see it's been a long day. I want to thank the organizers of this event for making my job easy, because everything that needs to be said today has already been said. So we're just here to summarize. And I'm going to do that very quickly. I'd like to request that my presentation. Okay. My name is Shola Bichkeshet, and I have the honor of being one of the very few satellite engineers to come out of Africa. In 1999, I walked into an event like this in Abuja, and some people came to me and said, "Do you know we're about to launch a satellite over Africa?" At the time, it was a company called Panamsat, and the satellite was past 1 hour. It's now owned by Intelsat. To cut the long story short, that satellite was launched in 2000, and a few months after, we were able to provide satellite internet across the whole of Africa. It was the first K-band service to provide internet across Africa. Before then, some of you will remember there used to be these very big dishes that only very certain types of organizations can have before they could get basic access to internet. So I've heard a lot of talk about satellites being challenging and difficult. That has not been my experience. And I'm talking about somebody who has been on the field. So what is the beauty of satellite technology? You launch one satellite and you cover an entire continent. Is there any other business that is as easy as that? It's as simple as that. We speak about internet, we speak about wanting to provide internet to the whole of, well, let's start with Nigeria. To run fiber across Nigeria is going to take years, a lot of digging. But NICOMSAT currently can cover the whole of Nigeria. The only challenge is that they're not looking at the addressable market. The addressable market is not 774 local governments. The addressable market is 1.5 million Africans who need basic access in their local community. So let us start understanding. This is a business that is very easy to justify. The lady that came the other time said, look, the only thing we need to do is to justify the business. And that has been my own experience. So when we talk about what is the role of satellite technology in an economy, it is everything. Everything. And that is what we must understand as a people. In terms of numbers, there are about 25,000 satellites, low orbit, medium orbit, and the other across the world. Africa has only 60 out of 25,000, but we consume it every day. How many of us used GPS or Google Maps to get here today? Can I see a show of hands? That is use of satellite technology. We use it every day, we pay for it, but we see ourselves only as consumers. We do not see ourselves as service providers. So when we come down to Nigeria, Nigeria has 6 satellites. If we juxtapose ourselves to the rest of the world, whatever made the rest of the world to launch 25,000 satellites, and Africa having only 60, what we're talking about here is an endless opportunity. And it is that endless opportunity that I will simply talk about very quickly. Connectivity, agriculture, there's already a lot of talk about data, disaster management, and education. So I show you this picture. I had the privilege in 2013, May 2013, of supervising this project. This is a village in Makurdi, very close, about an hour from Makurdi in Benue State. At that time, the Central Bank of Nigeria started the Cashless Nigeria project. And we needed to find a way to provide connectivity to villages that were in the middle of nowhere. This was the first deployment of Cashless Nigeria in a remote village in Benue State. And you can see the satellite. This used to be an abandoned post office. And so what we did was to take a small satellite dish and connect it to the post office. And then we interfaced with the banking network. Before we did this connection, the people in that village will wake up early in the morning. They will take transport to Makurdi, and they are going to town to go and cash 10,000 naira. They cannot come back immediately because the next bus coming back to the village is in the evening. So they have to wait till evening for the vehicle to bring them back to their village. So they were spending a whole day just to cash 10,000 naira. And guess what? You can see the picture below. The queue moved quickly from the buses going to Makurdi, and it quickly moved to the door of the post office that now had a satellite connection. And the gentleman that was attending to the crowd there, we used to make fun of him, that very soon he will soon marry all the women in the village, because he quickly became the most important person in that village. That was 2013. Today, we have 2.1 million people that we call POS operators out of Nigeria. It started from this single connection, and it has become the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria over the past 12 years. So we're not theorizing here. We're talking about what satellite technology can do. It is everything. Of course, there has been talks about drones and what it can do to agriculture. It's unbelievable. I wanted to ask some of the panel people here the other time, when we talk about technology, are we also considering our own African technology? Because I hear that it is possible for some people to fly at night. Maybe we should be looking into that as well and researching into it on how we can use it to affect our lives positively. But of course, when you look at something as simple as a drone, it is not complex. It is just a camera that has been carried to a higher elevation. And what it achieves is so much more than if you were holding it on the ground. So what does satellite do for you? It allows you to elevate whatever you are doing into multiples. And that is the opportunity. It is not a challenge. It is an opportunity that is waiting to tap. And it is up to us to determine. Policy decision is impossible without satellite technology. If I was the president of Nigeria, I would have a satellite map of Nigeria in my office. And it will showcase every nook and cranny. The reason why banditry is happening is because we have large swaths of land that we are not using satellite to monitor. It's as simple as that. It is cheaper to deploy this satellite than otherwise. And the business justification is simple and easy. Let us keep in mind that what satellite does, just like my experience in 1999, is that you launch one satellite and Africa becomes your market, not Nigeria. Immigration in all the African countries is what Nick Comstar should be talking to, and not just immigration in Nigeria. Internet access across Africa is what Nick Comstar should be looking at, and not internet access at 774 local government. The satellite is already there. The coverage is already there. It is the awareness that does not exist as we speak. Disaster management is self-explanatory. A lot of people suffer yearly because there is no information about weather and about impending disaster that can happen in their community. And satellite technology resolves that. Education, also self-explanatory. I advocate that every village in Africa deserves a satellite connection. It can be done in months. It is not, we don't need to run cable. It is physically impossible for us to run fiber to so many places in Nigeria. Satellite technology is the simple solution. And in today, just a few months ago, MTN has started doing testing for satellite to device. For satellite to device. And there is news that the recent low Earth orbit that was launched has become the biggest internet provider in Nigeria. But they're not providing it for Nigeria only. They're providing across the world. And I believe that most of us know what we're talking about. So we're talking about transformational technology. We're talking about technology that can be deployed rapidly. We're talking about technology that can be deployed with economies of scale. It is our refusal to look at the picture that is creating such a limited perspective. If the rest of the world can launch 25,000 satellites, in Nigeria, we still have another 100 satellites in waiting. And I'm suspecting that there are some of us in this room that in a very short period, they will be among the people that will be launching those 100 satellites. I thank you for the opportunity of sharing my own positive experiences with all of you. And I look forward to the time when we can start celebrating the utilization of this technology for the growth of our economy across Africa. Thank you.
Please, let's applaud him one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, the last presentation for today will be on the financing and policy strategies for advancing space education in Africa's emerging economy. And to do justice to this topic, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Director, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Abuja, Dr. Gloria Olutu. Please put your hands together for her as she comes to take her 15 minutes. You're highly welcome, ma'am. So after this presentation, I will come with how we will take the last segment of today's opening ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stand on the already established protocols. I want to also thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak on this emerging sector worldwide. Just like the last speaker said, our job has been made easy, those of us that are speaking last, because a lot of what needs to be said have actually been said. But my topic is to speak to specific financing and policy strategies for advancing education in Africa's emerging, space education in Africa's emerging economy. I've been introduced. I kept correcting the organizers. I'm Director of Finance and Accounts. The TED Fund is headed by an Executive Secretary. So I'm a director in the organization and have been with TED Fund for close to 23 years. So speaking about education in the tertiary education sector is something that is well within what we do. For introduction, we have already laid the foundation that Africa's entry into the global space economy is no longer a distant vision. With space agencies now active in many African countries, the continent's interest in space technology is being translated into action. To ensure long-term sustainability and relevance, investment must be directed towards developing human capital. I think that foundation or that point has been clearly laid, particularly through space science and STEM education. Africa continues in its drive towards technological advancement, and this can greatly be helped and supported by sound financial strategies and responsive policy frameworks. Generally talking about the space economy in Africa, over 50 satellites have been launched. I'm sure it's more than that by what we have heard here today, with more being planned. These satellites aren't just symbols of national pride. They are vital tools for development because they help to monitor climate change, improve agriculture, manage disasters, enhance communication, and even help to deliver education in remote areas. So this ecosystem of activities are those that create value through space-related products, services, and knowledge. There is a dire need for a skilled workforce in the Africa space economy. This is where space education comes in. There is need to train astronauts, engineers, scientists, data analysts, policymakers, and entrepreneurs, all that are needed in this area. All of this will drive the innovation and build a sustainable space sector. So the objective of this paper is to explore some innovative financial models and forward-looking policies that can enable Africa to build a sustainable, inclusive space education ecosystem, which will, of course, contribute to national development, job creation, and global competitiveness. The key players are government, private sector, and international partners. We will also provide some actionable recommendations for aligning financial and policy mechanisms with educational and technological growth. I want to start by defining some of the key concepts in this topic. They are financial strategies, policy strategies, space education, and then emerging economy. Financial strategies are funding frameworks or funding models, investment mechanisms that can help ensure sustainable allocation of resources towards space education. Policy strategies will involve implementation structures and structured plans and regulations designed to support implementation of programs, including education reforms and cross-sectoral collaboration. Space education, education related to space science, engineering, satellite technology, astronomy, and other supporting disciplines. An emerging economy is a rapidly evolving economy marked by increasing investment inflows, market expansion, and technological adoption. So there is need for rapid investment in this sector as an emerging economy. So the approach here is to, first of all, give an insight into the current education space or space education in Africa, and then we go on as highlighted. The imperative of space education is something that I would like to go through, because that will help us to realize that education is the foundation for any growth. We also always say that, we in the education sector, that education is the most important element for growing any economy. So space education is a powerful catalyst for Africa's emerging economies for several reasons, which we have heard: to generate skilled employment across the industries, including satellite technology, telecoms, and geospatial analytics. It will make for economic diversification by creating new industries and jobs, moving beyond the traditional sectors, to help diversify African economies away from sole reliance on raw materials. Technological advancement will also be helped by developing this sector, by fostering a culture of innovation and problem solving, leading to homegrown solutions, spurring scientific innovations relevant to agriculture, climate monitoring, and urban planning. Of course, for sustainable development, there will be space applications directly addressing many of Africa's pressing challenges of today. And of course, if Africa wants to be globally competitive, we need a skilled space workforce so that we can attract investment and partnerships. Now, space education in Africa. A number of efforts, like we have heard, have been made at launching satellites and setting up space agencies. But space education remains underdeveloped in most countries. African universities lack dedicated aerospace programs. Despite progress made by countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Kenya in developing space capabilities, space education remains fragmented. A small search just gave South Africa at the top when it comes to space education in Africa, with the University of Cape Town, University of Johannesburg, Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, and some other South African universities taking the top spot. When it comes to Nigeria, the major one I could find is the African University of Science and Technology. Some other universities in Nigeria offer space-related programs, like in UNILAG and in UNN, also in FUT-MINA, but they are very, very limited. And so, just like I said, South Africa has a strong presence with institutions such as I have listed, and other notable institutions, and then the Pan-African University Institute for Space Science, plays a crucial role in developing space-related academic programs across the continent. Most institutions offering space-related programs are under-resourced, and few countries have a coherent national policy to integrate space studies into broader STEM curricula. However, like we have said, the Pan-African University and our own NASDRA, offer a lot of hope. There is the AFIT in Kaduna State, but I think that one is more into aerospace and aeronautics. Then the gaps, the AU efforts, I'm sure most of us, because we're in this space, would have known that the African Union in January 2016 approved the Africa Space Policy, talking about policy, and the Africa Space Strategy, following the adoption of the 10-year Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa. That was done in 2016. Somebody had mentioned that. And I've also mentioned the Pan-African University Institute for Space Sciences, which was established in line with this effort. However, there are existing gaps. Funding, we have heard that over and over again. Funding for such programs are often sidelined in national budgets. That is a known fact. There is limited collaboration between universities, governments, and the private sector. Most curricula do not reflect national ambitions in space, resulting in a disconnect between policy and education. Other challenges include political instability, which discourages long-term investments. Brain drain, as many African trained scientists seek opportunities abroad. Infrastructure deficits, such as lack of laboratories and observatories. Lack of public awareness of space education and its relevance to everyday life. I have a summary there. So let's now move to some of the specific strategies that we have identified that will help. The final part of my paper has to do with 5 financing strategies, 5 policy strategies, and then I have a list of 10 stakeholder actions that will be helpful. So for the financial strategies, the first one is public funding and budget prioritization. Governments must treat space education as a national priority by increasing allocations within education and science budgets. Dedicated space education funds can enable scholarships, infrastructure, and research grants. Public-private partnerships is another well-known strategy, engaging the private sector. We have spoken a lot about that. International grants and donor funding, international bodies like the World Bank, the UNESCO, space funding, fairy nations can be tapped for grants. Education bonds and endowments. Governments and institutions can issue space education bonds or establish endowment funds to support long-term investments. These funds could be used for lab equipment, university satellites, or foreign exchange programs. And then contributions from the private sector. We have so many private sector players that have spoken here. 5 policy strategies that I am proposing are listed there. National Space Education Policy. Policies that would mandate the inclusion of space science in curricula and define national objectives, create legal frameworks, a lawyer spoke up earlier on, that support institutional growth and academic research. So we need a national space education policy. 2, curriculum integration at all levels, from primary to tertiary. STEM subjects should be embedded with space-related modules to ignite early interest and develop core skills required for the future. Legislation to incentivize investment. Governments can pass laws that can offer tax breaks or subsidies to private investors in space education, fostering and enabling environment for growth. Institutional partnerships, of course, that is very key with other countries like the NASA from USA, the European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, and all of those to facilitate research collaborations, joint degrees, and remote learning. Monitoring and evaluation of policy implementation. Effective implementation requires periodic assessments, transparent reporting, and adaptive revisions of strategies to reflect evolving realities. So I have spoken about 5 financial strategies, 5 policy strategies. Now I have a list of 10 stakeholder actions that can help to drive space education in this sector. We should mainstream space education in national education and science policies by developing harmonized space education curricula across African countries, encourage accreditation of space-related programs, empower existing universities and technical institutions to create dedicated departments for space education, establish new national institutes of space science and technology where needed. Of course, we have many of we have NASDA in Nigeria, so we may not be talking about others, but developing the ones we have. A second stakeholder action is to create dedicated innovation funds to seed research and technology projects. And this is where an organization like TED Fund is relevant. I would say a little bit more about TED Fund before I round up, but as a fund that provides funding for education in tertiary education, particularly in Nigeria, TED Fund can play a very key role in this regard. We should encourage the private sector, like we have said, through PPPs by sponsoring research projects and academic programs, offering internships and job placement to graduates of space studies, co-funding infrastructure such as laboratories, observatories, and space hubs. We should develop regional centers of excellence with world-class infrastructure. Talking about centers of excellence, that is an area that TED Fund also plays a role. For instance, the fund has set up special centers of excellence in some tertiary institutions. Examples are Center for Urology and Nephrology in the Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto, Bayero University, Kaduna. There's a Center for Renewable Energy. On and on. In the University of Benin, there's a Center of Excellence for Agriculture and Food Technology. In Ife, there's a Center of Excellence in ICT. So there is no reason why TED Fund cannot look into the area of getting a Center of Excellence dedicated to space education. Number 5, build Pan-African digital platforms for sharing curriculum, e-learning, and collaboration. Governments should commit a minimum of 1% of GDP for STEM and space education investment. Like I said, these are just proposals that one could play with. Private sector incentives, we've spoken about that, tax breaks, which would encourage investment in space education. Regional and continental collaboration is needed. And we've talked about monitoring and evaluation of mechanisms to be built in to policy implementation frameworks. Innovative financing tools, such as education bonds, development impact bonds, diaspora investment funds, engaging Africans in diaspora, professionals in the space sector to contribute in this area. So finally, I would just want to speak a little bit in 1 or 2 slides concerning what TED Fund does. In Nigeria, using our own NASDA as a case study, just a few months ago, NASDA visited the fund, and we're looking at ways to collaborate with one another. I think also NIGECOMSAT DG also visited the fund. And so we are working together to be able to promote this cutting-edge area. So we have taken meaningful steps in advancing space education, and our interventions in funding tertiary education have been instrumental in enhancing research infrastructure. We have the National Research Fund, and so if we have proposals in this area, they can be prioritized because these are, emerging areas that will help the economy. We support postgraduate programs, and we foster international collaborations. There is a program, if we move to the next slide, there's a program we call the TSAS, which is a scholarship program for academic staff. And only this year we had to put a stop on it because, obviously the exchange rate isn't supporting it. And, but there is an exception for programs that cannot be followed within Nigeria. So this kind of area is an area that the scholarship covers. There is special support for space education by sponsoring centers of excellence. I've already spoken about that. And then sponsoring lecturers of our universities to participate in international conferences in space technology. In conclusion, advancing space education in Africa's emerging economy is not just about building satellites. It's about building futures, and that is where the human capacity comes in. It's about empowering our youth with the knowledge, skills, and opportunities to innovate, create, and lead in a rapidly evolving global landscape. By strategically combining dedicated government investment, fostering robust public-private partnerships, leveraging international collaboration, and implementing forward-looking policy frameworks, Africa can unlock the full potential of its space economy. Africa must join the space race through sound policy and financial innovation, producing future global leaders in space technology. Let us work together to inspire the next generation of African space pioneers. Thank you very much for listening.
If you are proud of that research deep presentation, let us again put our hands together. For Dr. Olotu, if I had my way, and maybe next time I will explore that part of my power, I would have taken your presentation from this time to when the minister was seated. It was important that we listen to some of those laudable recommendations that you made. Once again, thank you very much. As we did promise at the beginning, if you look at your program, we had promised this whole event will round up by 5 o'clock, and I can assure you that we are on course to round up by 5. I want to salute your patience. Okay, we missed out on a very important part. While this is going on, I would like to invite Mrs. Olufunke Fajagba from NADCOMSA to please kindly come to the rostrum for just 1 minute for a clarification. Yes, I understand. The ceremony of gratitude. Please.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me first commend TED-Fund. Thank you, TED-Fund. I'm one of your beneficiaries. I'm one of the beneficiaries of your Centers of Excellence where I'm running my PhD. Thank you for that. Okay, so I wanted to correct something or address something that was said prior to the last speaker about NIGE-COMSAT and how we are focusing on the 7-7 for local government areas. Even though I mentioned the 7-7 for local government areas, I just mentioned this as an example of what we're doing in Nigeria to bring about connectivity. NIGE-COMSAT as a satellite has footprint over 38 African countries. We cover West, East, Central Africa. We have footprint in spot beams in South Africa. We even have spot beams in Europe. So we have customers. We're providing services in some African countries. We are providing backup services for a satellite operator. We have a customer in Asia. So we cover other countries and we are providing services in these other countries. It's not just Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for providing those clarifications. Now we know clearly, as said by some of our other presenters, that satellites have capacities beyond Nigeria, and that is an area we should be looking at. We are winding down, practically have the last event left on our schedule. Let me start by thanking you for your patience, for your perseverance. Today has been a long day, largely because of the opening ceremony, where we had to wait for dignitaries for over an hour. Let me start by announcing that tomorrow we hope to start off in good time, and we will make quick progress because we don't have those large ceremonies, interjecting within our program. At this point, I would like to invite for the closing remarks the co-chairman of the organizing committee to kindly provide the closing remark, and I'm talking about no other than Engineer Dr. Mohammed Haruna. Let us put our hands together for him as he comes up. Let me also quickly announce that once we leave here after the closing remark, we'll head straight for our lunch. Please, as you leave, kindly move along with your valuables. Do not leave anything around, because basically from that point, we would all proceed to our various destinations. My name is Sunday Michael, and I've been assisted today by Okon, and we wish you a very restful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the MC, Mr. Ogu. Ladies and gentlemen, standing on the protocols already established, I would like to express my profound gratitude to the participants of this program for today. Those of us that are present at the opening of the program would like to appreciate you profoundly. We that the sessions for tomorrow will be very educative, and the objective of this conference is to be delivered going forwards. At this juncture, we would like to close the session for today, and we would like to tell you we are grateful for your participation and attendance. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.